a lovely weekend, George. I really did. London in the sun.
The best.
Fantastic. We don't get many. Probably got a couple more weeks of it.
We've
but
really,
just when the thing what is good about London summer is that because we don't get it that much, or the London hot weekends, when it happens, the city activates. People come out. Whoa. More so than other hot cities. It's like everyone's all of a sudden like,
I gotta go to M&S and buy everything I can. Welcome to episode 142.
How are you?
I'm fine. I'm all right. A bit tired, but in a good way. I had a very, when you have a busy, good weekend, but you does kind of tire. I was with a lot of family, doing a lot of family things, a lot of people. So you're on. You're making sure everyone's okay. Are you good? Are you rested? You two talking okay? We're all happy, wonderful, and I can understand now why adults, when I was a child, would do that thing where they'd sit in a chair and you'd think they were asleep and they would go, I'm not asleep, I'm just resting my eyes. And that's how I feel sometimes. Like, I don't need to sleep, I need to rest my eyes. But I'm okay, and I'm here. And we're going to do this because we do it every week, and it's such a joy. And it actually, it activates me doing this.
Yeah.
If I was just turning up to do a regular job on a Monday, I'd be comatose, or pushing my mouse around the desk, watching on the screen. Yeah. But here, doing
Morning,
this...
Jill.
Yeah, morning Tracy.
Have a good weekend.
Yeah,
Well, no, of course, we decided to make these pizzas.
But yeah, nothing activates me like this show. It does. I think, I got to sit down and talk about movies. Let's switch it on.
People
it's
were
go
very
time.
kind when we got very introspective last week about what would you say to if you went 2.5 years back in time? And people left lovely comments about
I've now come to realise my answer should have been giving them a bundle of social media strategy and document being like, George and James, this is how you edit and this is how you process it and everything. That's what I would give them. Technical tech advice. Yes, last week we talked about Trap, the new M. Night Shyamalan film, and Babes, the Alana Glazer comedy. That was an interesting discussion. I liked talking about that. This week on the show, it's all things alien.
On the show, we've got the alien. He's here.
Xenomorphs. They're like
the little mouth.
Yeah, the main mouth does the talking. The little mouth does the jokes.
Tail getting everywhere.
Yeah. Just discarded face huggers all around. Did you leave this excess skin here, Xenomorph?
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about that.
Membranes and
gooey,
icky.
Goo. It's an icky movie.
Slime.
But
I feel like the famous Alien 3 poster where I'm watching it and my face is just like, please.
Alien 3, which the poster was written as Alien Cubed. I don't know scientifically how you work that out.
It's in 3 dimensions.
We went to James was unavailable, but we went to the screening last week, the premiere, and the director Fede Alvarez was there, some of the cast, and it was the first time ever the director sat and watched the film at one of these screenings.
Yes, I remember you saying.
It rarely happens. Fede Alvarez sat, I don't want to say 3 rows in front of me, and I was like, oh, you're staying to watch the movie. You would have seen the movie already. He made it, but he's also definitely seen it.
It's brave because you've seen it many times. You literally made it, and also you're going to be sitting with an audience receiving it, which I think would be very distracting because you're thinking about the audience that's receiving it.
Fede Alvarez, by the way, from a distance, seems very cool, very suave, and there were clearly lots of friends of the film in the audience as well, which was nice. And what I liked is that when the film ended, people went like, "Hey, Fede, well done." He went, "Are you not entertained?" Which I quite liked. I thought it wasn't cocky; it was just like entertaining. Yeah. And actually, as we filed out, he was there. And obviously, even though it's pitch black, so I actually shuffled past him. I just went, Fede, congratulations on the movie, man. All the
George
best.
Punday, Pulp Kitchen, how you doing?
And he was like,
it'd be great to have you on a film Vibes.
Don't talk to me. What's your favourite movie you've seen this year? But yeah, that was great fun.
He's probably on a real high if he's come from much smaller films and he's been given this huge legacy franchise with a big budget in a big release. He's probably absolutely loving it.
Yeah, working regularly with Ridley Scott, because Ridley Scott produced this directly. And
it's his Ridley's, isn't it? His blessing. He you may alien, won't he?
I guess so. I mean, kind of
wish it happened sooner.
Ridley Scott's made one good Alien movie, and he's made one bad Alien movie, and he's made one middle Alien movie. Alien, Prometheus, Alien Covenant. Alien Covenant at the bottom, to clarify. Prometheus in the middle.
Yeah, I guess.
Alien masterpiece.
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about that this week. We will also be doing a spoiler.
I think of Prometheus worse because of the following film.
So
I think
because it birthed it.
Yeah, almost like that wishy-washy. What's the meaning of life itself? I almost blame Prometheus for Alien Covenant. But I know what you mean. It probably is more. I haven't rewatched it.
No,
that's what I wanted to say. As you
but our review today will be spoiler-free. But we will be doing a spoiler cast as ever, because there's lots of things to talk about in that. So look out for that later this week. And of course, we've got lots of content on the Patreon as ever. James, what do we talk about this week on Double Take?
We talked all about Fuck, we just did it.
I mean, to be fair, a bit unfair to be passed to you because I brought the
show.
topics this week. So we talked about It Ends With Us,
Oh,
the Blake
God, yeah, what of
Lively drama. What's going on there? Successful movie. Why are they not promoting it together with the director?
Feuds, dramas.
Feuds talked about that and the whole marketing campaign. We also talked about Borderlands making zero money and being a box office and commercial critical failure.
Had 0 Rotten Tomatoes.
10% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
When was the last time you saw a 10%er? And then we also talked about Jenna Rowland's passing and her career and the great performance that she did.
New House of the Dragon, new
Game of Thrones
show,
stuff coming through.
97.
We got our fingers on the pulse,
Just
guys.
discussing,
but also, James,
analysing.
you have done a big bonus content on the Patreon as well.
We did. So a few months ago, I did my first initial, and we both did, of Star Wars The Acolyte. Wanted to come back to it, promised I would review it, and I just realised from the sentiment, very negative sentiment going on around Star Wars, particularly that show, I didn't want to just pile on a review that honestly wouldn't say anything more than what has already been said about that show. It's not particularly good, and I thought what a more fun, interesting, and constructive way to talk about that show and going forward is to do a whole feature on how to fix Star Wars or how to save Star Wars. And so I sort of review The Acolyte, catch people up on the sentiment of Star Wars, kind of anecdotally, but also with a bit of evidence, and also give a set of commandments for how we think Star Wars can be saved going forward. Some of them are a little bit controversial, some of them you might not agree with, but I laid it out there. That is going to be available on the feeds for you guys to enjoy later this week. I hope you guys enjoy it, but that is going to be like sort of our standing take on Star Wars. A lot of similar threads you could draw from the treatment of the MCU, but really, in terms of what we'd want from Star Wars going forward, that's sort of where we think it should be heading.
And it's an example of the kind of content we like to create on Patreon now that we're kind of discovering the space. It's not something that we do every week, but it's like we like the idea to do a real deep dive, real surgical opinion piece, as it were.
Enhancing a thing that could have just been a review, fleshing it out a bit more, giving our thoughts. And I can always refer to it if you guys want to know what we think on the Star War.
The Star War?
The singular one.
The singular one. Yeah, it is sort of one war, isn't it, really?
Yeah, which is kind of part of the problem.
Oh, yes. Oh, listen, you have to go and check it out.
Multiple battles.
One war.
Against evil.
Anyway, welcome to the show. We're going to be talking Alien. Let's get on with it. So, Alien Romulus, the first Alien film we've had in about 7 years. And
has it been 7?
Just a quick recap on where we are with the Alien franchise. 1979, 45 years ago, Alien released. Magnificent masterpiece. Took the science fiction genre and injected it with horror, and was executed in terms of art direction in a way that was just
masterpiece of suspense,
absolutely
special
masterful.
Effects, set design, environments.
Not really Scott's debut film, but the one that really kind of put him on the map. And you can watch that film now, and you can see his background in commercial filmmaking because it is so tight and lean and well exercised that it's fantastic.
The aesthetic, I think, is just as good as it gets.
Incredible. It's a perfect meeting of art design, production design, direction, script.
The way we're discussing,
incredibly very sparse movie, and very
the way the environment really sells that used future hyper-industrialized aesthetic that you see in science fiction forever. You can see the influence in Star Wars, obviously Blade Runner, that kind of subtly induced.
Very successful film. Then 7 years later, in 1986, you get the sequel, Aliens, directed by James Cameron, which takes the core ingredients and many of the great concepts of the original and just pivots it slightly, reimagines it as a bit more of a thriller, a bit more of an action film, obviously adding multiple aliens, as you can tell, in the title. Another great success, and Alien still to this day I think is held up as a case study of one of the most successful sequels of all time. I think about
passing the baton as well for a franchise.
Yeah, and also what I was thinking about Aliens recently is that it's a great. Obviously, Ripley is always used as a feminine, a heroine, a great heroine character people always talk about. But I love that in Aliens, it's like she's not listened to for half the movie. Yeah. The men just go, yeah, thanks, Ripley, we've got this. Then it all goes to shit, and Ripley has to go, right,
you don't understand.
Right, shut up. Yeah. We're going to blow up the planet. You do this, and you do that, okay? Yeah. God damn it, Ash. Anyway, so great success. Then again, you have a period of like 7 years, and in 1992 you get Alien 3 with Sigourney Weaver again. But there's lots of stuff you can read online about this. But Alien 3 had a very, very troubled production.
Not highly regarded.
Not highly. I think it's
a bit of a resurgence.
Yeah, I watched it.
Traditionally, not highly regarded.
Yeah,
I've not seen it.
There's some ingredients in it that are better than you'd expect. Nowhere near as top as the other two, but very troubled production. David Fincher's first movie. script rewrites. Originally, it was going to be about a wooden planet filled with monks. And famously, I found this out today looking at it, is that before the film was even shot, and they were racing to a release date, it was such a disaster. They released a teaser that said, "On Earth, we finally learn that everyone can scream," or something like that.
Right.
And
That's really clunky.
but it's slightly better phrased than that.
Yeah.
But the point being, they infer that it's coming to Earth this time. Anyone who's seen Alien 3 will know they don't go to Earth. They've never come to Earth, right? And it's this famous thing of like, you tease the movie you haven't even made yet, and then it ended up being something different. Anyway, and then basically that pushes the Alien franchise into this new era where it's kind of trotted out every few years, and it's very bad. Alien Resurrection, terrible.
What year did that come out?
That's 97 with Winona Ryder. It doesn't with Alien 3 with all of its flaws makes thematic sense, draws that kind of to a close. But Alien Resurrection, my God, terrible. Then you get the Alien versus Predator stuff, which isn't canon, but is still rubbish.
Yeah.
And then you kind of get this sort of spin-off prequel, oogly boogly, look at the black goo, Prometheus. I went into that thinking, this is an Alien prequel that's going to tell us how the donut-shaped ship was in the first film.
Yeah.
And it includes the donut ship, but it's not the same. It's not the shape from the first film. It's not even the same planet.
No.
It's so confusing. My thing with Prometheus was it felt like that bit in The Grinch where, he's in the... Stay with me. When he's in the chair of cheer and they're giving him the pudding and he's like having the pudding and then this guy goes, "This is not pudding." And he eats and the Grinch goes, "What is it?" And it's like Ridley Scott was like, "This is not Alien." And you go, "What? Then what the fuck is it?"
It was like purple mush.
Yeah. Anyway, massive tangent. Prometheus, which was what it was, a flawed film.
How long has that comparison been sitting in your head?
12 years since I saw it.
12 years. You thought that Grinch?
I thought that when I came out of the cinema, and I've never used it, and now I have. But that was my main issue because it didn't know how much of an Alien prequel it wanted to be.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. Then 5 years later, you get a sort of sequel to Prometheus, but it's almost like a spin-off of Prometheus itself. We get Alien Covenant.
Back to the Alien name.
Back to the Alien name, even though it is very much Prometheus 2, which I think...
It really turns into Prometheus 2 about halfway through.
I thought Alien Covenant was pretty bad. I think it was pretty dire, but I said this at the time. I wonder if I've said this on air, but is that kind of Alien Covenant works as a lowercase a alien film, as a very generic space thriller that's kind of like late 2.5 stars, 3 stars.
Yeah.
But as an alien with a capital A, disaster. Anyway, that brings us now to Alien Romulus, directed by Fede Alvarez, which is kind of not even retconning, but just it's putting all those other films aside, and it's set in between the first and the second movie. And it very much is grounded back in the vision of 1979's Alien. We follow Kaylee Spaney as Rain and her brother Andy, played by David Johnson, who are working on a planet which is a mining colony with like 0 days of daylight in the year. And it's this vision of the future that's kind of hinted at in Alien, because again, Alien is such a sparse and minimal film. But it's this vision of the future which I find so intriguing, which is that it's technologically advanced, but it's still shit. Humans are still oppressed. Humans are oppressed by the technology they've made. Corporate consumer conglomerate greed is still there, oppressing everyone. And
The
life is
metaphor in
miserable.
general is like, if you look at all the plot points, it's anti-big corpo.
Yeah.
It's like, and everyone else comes stripped of their humanity and stripped of their identity. It's kind of an anti-industrialization film.
And if you remember the original Alien, it was like, these are space truckers, essentially. They're just like grunts. They're talking about how much bonus they get, and there's a little sort of class divide in the original crew because Yafet Koto and Harry Dean Stanton are talking about they don't get a certain bonus because they work in a certain part of the ship, and Dallas and the captain...
They need a good old union.
They need union power.
It's a pro-union, anti-big corporation film when you think about it.
So they team up with a couple of friends of theirs who say, look, floating above us is a disused spaceship, right, which is still filled with cryosleep pods that have enough fuel in them, if we can get them, for us to travel, because it takes us 9 years to get to Yavaga, which is the planet we want to get to where there's sunlight. We've all dreamed of it, but we need cryosleep to get us there. And they're like, my God, cryosleep, that's amazing. It just feels like one night of heavy drinking. Sure enough, they pop, and this disused spaceship is a bit more of a disused space station called Romulus, split into two halves, actually, Romulus and Remus. And obviously what's happened? It's a little bit dysfunctional. It's a little bit disused. The
lights
gravity
are off.
boosters on it, lights flickering, things not working. What terrors could be inside? Well, we know what will be inside. But anyway, that is the setup for Alien Romulus.
Oh, also there's a time pressure thing.
Oh,
So there's a
immediately
spinning
there are the rings of a planet
ice
nearby.
sodium crystals,
which are like
spinning.
we
and
need
it's
to-
set to fall into it. So there's a time pressure. thing.
Yeah, we need to evacuate the station within 48,
And they've got to
96
get
hours.
it. If they don't get it, they won't get the
So they need
sleep
exactly. They
fuel.
need the sleep fuel. There's a mission. There's a target. There's a direct objective.
Yeah.
That's Alien Romulus. And I just say before we jump in, if you want to know the kind of vibe of this film, the poster sells it. Not just of the alien, the face hugger on someone's face, but I'm talking about the red poster. Right. That's kind of the whole execution of the movie. It's specific, stripped down, focused.
horror
Elements.
more towards horror.
Anyway, James.
Very structurally similar, I thought, back to traditional Alien.
Yes.
First thing I want to say, saw this at the IMAX. Not done horror at the IMAX, I don't think. And I went with Horror Amy, who also likes a horror. And I just want to say it's an IMAX thing. Not shot in IMAX, but had a 2.39 to 1 aspect ratio. Great to see a horror film and an alien film at that, which enjoys space, enjoys spectacle. All the wiggly, horrible, slimy things are in my face just in the same way that the characters are. And it's just, it works. I really think that there is potential for horror in the IMAX if it can justify itself and not lean too much into that action aspect. There's definitely something really cool about it. So we get this cast of much younger characters for the series, which I actually quite enjoyed. I think Callie Spaney continues to be very good. Very sort of taking the baton from Ripley in a bit, which I'll get onto later. And I think David Johnson, who played Andy, who you'll know from Rye Lane, which is a film I like. George really liked it. I think he's just brilliant in this.
I think, to be honest with you, David Johnson is my favourite thing in the whole movie. I like a lot of other things about it, which we'll get onto, but I came out of it, I thought, that performance, David Johnson,
He's doing a sort of dual, he plays a sentient, dual personality. He's a very nervous and not physically inept sentient, but nonetheless is... everything he does is motivated by a prime directive, and all of that comes into play. And there's a wonderful duplicitous. What's his real intention?
There's a moment, and this isn't a spoiler. It's very early on where he sort of gets a minor upgrade, receives some new information, and his physicality completely changes with his performance. And first of all, there's this nice sort of Medusa petrified moment where, as he upgrades, he kind of holds this frozen look.
Upgrades,
which is
eyes
like
roll back.
like a very sort of mythological, oh my god, petrified. But then, in having this upgrade, like I said, his whole performance changes, his voice changes, and even when running through the ship at speed, his whole command is this really interesting balance between being quite warm and softly spoken, but sinister, threatening, but not entirely threatening. That it's perfect. I think he's just fantastic.
And Alien is always done very well. There's always a sort of sense of artificial personified technology that also is confronted with the horror of the monster. And they're obviously not, the monster isn't pursuing them. Yeah. So there's this whole idea of they're receiving this evil very differently, and the dynamic is different, and he just carries all of that, I think, brilliantly.
Excellent.
Lovely reassurance when it opened, how much I love the world of the Alien universe when it's done very well. I love the world building that we got on that planet, just everything being a little bit horrible and dystopian, and that heavily industrialized, used dystopia is just good.
If I may just say on that as well, it's something that when I've talked about Star Wars recently about achieving the aesthetic. What I love is that it's committed to that vision of the future that's very 70s.
Yes.
It's brown, it's yellow, there's yellowing sellotape that holds photos up. There's the computer graphics are all very 70s, and which is honors the original film, but also just makes it feel very tired.
There's a distinct moment when they power up the ship that they take off in, and the lights slowly flicker on, and you see knobs, switches, levers, blast doors, buckles, clips. You know what? It really sucks in films when you have a sort of transparent iPad that people swipe on. Give me a lever. Give me a crank. Give me a handbrake. Full of them. Just knobs and switches. Love it. Like a big, Millennium Falcon style. And I just, all of that powered up, and I just went, oh, yes. And the old CRT TVs that take a while to thing.
You remember, I think we're probably the last generation to remember this. Do you remember touching the TV and feeling the static on your fingers?
Yes, you
can't.
That,
it's so hard to. I think I only had that when I was very young before we got a new TV. But you would touch it,
soft like fur,
and it would crackle on your fingertips.
Just all of that, brilliant, and it's so much more cinematic than swipey CG, transparent
glossy,
Prometheus stuff. Basically, let's be honest, that had just cinematically interesting. And I like Fede Alvarez has a horror background with Don't Breathe. Does really well to take everything that we know and he lightly expands on some of the rules, like to do with the face huggers. There's a nice moment where we learn that they are seeking humans due to their body temperature and the sound that they make. And there's a nice literal sort of reference to almost like the don't breathe, hold your breath, where the characters have to walk through without making a sound. And obviously, Andy again, not having that dynamic. All just really good.
I think we should run. It's kind of like that tone.
Run now.
Run.
Yeah. Nice stuff to do with gravity turning on and off. Yeah. All the stuff going in there. All in all, I had a really fun time with it. I'm confident to say it's Alien back on course, especially compared to the stuff that we've had recently.
I totally agree. I thought it was pretty solid. There are minor few moments, which I'm sure we'll go on to, where I think the film kind of stretched itself a little bit, maybe lost its grip a tad towards the end, but on the whole, pretty solid.
Yeah.
And I think that the main success of the movie is, as you said, put it right on course. I would say it does a lot of remedial work on the entire franchise.
Sure.
So not only deliver a movie that is entertaining and functional enough to be an Alien movie, but actually touches on elements of the entire franchise, even though certain elements I was like, I don't think we needed that, but certain elements to be like, it's doing a lot of remedial work to like correct almost the franchise's posture and say, okay, now that's flattened out, that's sorted, can we move on? I think particularly for the first half, it is so directly and specifically linked to the first Alien in its vision and everything.
The structure as well. It's very
totally. And I'm like, this is just an Alien sequel, really. You don't have to bother yourself with the entire franchise. And I love the vision of it in terms of the sound design as well. The industrial growls, the machinery screams and screeches. So there's this added horror element, but the cinematography, he really just frames things in a slightly off-kilter Dutch way. So there's a bit where someone kind of creeps through a tunnel and she's shot from behind, so she's in silhouette. But the way her posture holds is almost slightly monstrous. It just creates a really great image. It's just someone walking down a corridor, but it creates a really strong image. I love that. As you said, David Johnson's performance is a real highlight. I love the kind of lean. It's very lean. The game mechanics of it is like, this is our clear objective. This is our clear time pressure. These are the things that are working against us. And it has what has often worked with great, something bizarrely comparison is like A Quiet Place, which is that it's so well choreographed and like, this thing's running out of time,
clear rules
but everything over there, you need to do that before you get hit. It's like a game. It's like an escape room. And I think that's really, really fun. It's kind of what we expected, which is you shouldn't go into this film expecting the heights of the original two, because you're never going to get that.
But I think you can third best
that's
Alien
exactly
film.
what I was going to say. It's the third best Alien film.
The upper mid-tier.
And it should be, and that's an absolute
if you told me that beforehand, I would have gone great.
Yeah, that's all I wanted. I think we said it in double take. I was like, that's all I wanted this film to be, the third best Alien movie, and it is.
I had an interesting one where I very much enjoyed it, decently scary, all the sort of aesthetic of it very good. And it has, as you said, a lot of homages to the original Alien, not just in its structure and it's obviously being an Alien film, but visually, the moments and the outfits and the framing and the poses are really Alien coded, especially Cally Spaney taking the role of the lead female figure, really sort of passing the baton from Sigourney Weaver. And there's almost moments where if you were squinting or if you weren't just looked for a second, you would go, that's an exact recreation or remake even of that moment from Alien. And with that, there are some moments that are, I think, strangely fan servicey, which I wasn't expecting. And some of those moments, I think, didn't quite make sense to be fan servicey. I'll talk about it later in the spoiler cast if you want to listen to that. I was always like, did we need to do that fan service in this very stripped back film? I'm already very aware that the fan service for me is Sirens. The fan service for me is like executing Alien really well. And some of those moments I was like, well, I get the nod and I get the hunch. Is it lifting me out slightly? Like certain lines or catchphrases that were said. I go, that doesn't actually make sense for you to have said that at that moment. And even though it's I don't think I needed in an Alien film fist bump moments.
No.
I didn't think that's what this film was, but it nonetheless has them. Yeah. It's interesting, like coming out of Deadpool and Wolverine, which is there's 10,000 of them. We're sort of wondering, when you take all that away for the third watch, what's left in the film?
The foam on top.
I don't think this film has the same problem, but those moments for me, I don't know if I'm going to appreciate them to the same extent. I love that it's calling back to a legacy franchise, but I'm like, did that make sense? Anyway, you said the last half an hour maybe lost you a bit, so I really liked the last 20 minutes.
I don't think it lost me. I had it. I was with it. I just felt it maybe starting to stretch itself. Probably being a bit unfair on my part. And I will say that there's something towards the end that happens, which there was a moment instinctively where I wanted to reject what I was seeing on screen.
Right.
But the audience and the design of what was happening on screen was so well executed that I thought, you know what, I'm actually going with this. And I think that's, so it's the whole film. It's the execution is very, very good. And there are moments it's a bit like the original Alien. It's so vision-led. I'm also just remembering, like, even when they ascend in the spaceship at the beginning of the film to get to the space station, there's the shot of the sunlight piercing through Kaylee Spain, putting her hand up, and it casting a shadow on her face. And I love that. And it's so clear that Fede Alvarez has a real love and of the original movie, but also wants to bring his own passion to it. And we should say that Ridley Scott produced this movie and was involved and gave his notes, but I think they chose the right director.
This film is a bit of a 4-act film, which a lot of the time, if you listen to the show, I kind of criticise 4-act films for being pacey strange. But actually, I quite liked this extended part of it.
It is every Alien film has the ending. And then the ending.
Yes.
You know, there's in every Alien film, if you think about it, even like Alien 3 almost. Just when you think, and then there's...
And I really enjoyed this one, and it delivered. And it was actually very action-heavy, but I was suitably grossed out and scared. And
so I think it might be the goriest Alien film.
It's a good shout.
Because in the original...
Prometheus is pretty gory.
No, Prometheus was a 12A. Really, so this was, and there are moments of ickiness in Prometheus, but I think they kind of dampened it down and sanitized it.
This is gory.
Alien, the first one, is barely gory at all. It's very, very sparse and quick. Aliens has a bit of squibbiness to it, a bit more. But I think this
could be.
There's one moment towards the end, again, dancing on spoilers, that like reminded me a bit of the first Omen, where you go, "Whoa, crikey, okay, we're gonna do that."
Membranes and goo.
But I think absolutely, on the whole, a very well executed, lean, solid, really, really solid execution. And I think that, it's the third best Alien movie.
Solid. It's the best parts about it are its the pure storytelling and delivery of horror, and the sort of less interesting parts to me are when it tries to. Problem with the franchise, to be honest, when it does try to over-explain itself. And there are a couple of moments where it was a real tell, don't show from a particular person who I think was overused as a narrative tool in a film, which I don't think needed it that much. We can get onto this later in spoilers, but I almost was surprised that it was used so much and included to such an extent, given the nature of its inclusion. And a lot of it was explain, and then for those moments, my interest did just kind of plateau slightly, but it wasn't too long.
Yes.
But that's been my problem with other Alien films, of trying to justify and explain the whole thing when I already kind of understood the bare bones of this.
Do you see my point as well, though, about it trying to like connect the dots kind of across the wide everything, just to be like, okay, we've got Alien here, but we're actually a little thing to Aliens, and etc.
Which I don't think it should have to do.
No, it shouldn't have to do, is the thing. But it's interesting that it actually played such an active role in, like I said, being remedial.
Stitching some things together and making it make sense. But,
so,
thumbs up.
Thumbs up. We really enjoyed it. And I think you guys did too.
Cue some emails from our fans who, if you wanted to write in an email, I'm stalling while George gets it up, you can do, of course, by writing into hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com to give us your thoughts, your questions, your concerns, just like
Matt did. Matt writes in about Alien Romulus, says, "Hello, James and George, George and James. I hope you're both well. I did not think I'd be writing in again so soon. That changed when I saw Alien Romulus. In the words of Al Pacino in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, what a picture." I love this film. The film is stunning. The acting was brilliant. Loved how the cast wasn't populated by big-name actors. Yes, I really enjoyed that. And the story had a really solid blend of what you expect from an Alien film and some new elements to keep the film fun, exciting, and scary. The final act was just incredible, and in regards to the threat the characters had to face in the final 10 to 15 minutes, that was crazy. And I couldn't quite believe they went to that. I was able to take my mom and dad and girlfriend to the pictures to see it. It was my dad's birthday, and Alien might very well be his favourite film ever. I treated them all to my local cinema Dolby screening. Nice. It was perfect. The picture was so crisp. The sound was incredible. One of the best cinema experiences we've all had. That's fantastic.
Nice.
I love that. So good, Matt. Even though my mum walked out of the film as soon as the gore begins, she went to do some shopping instead. So sadly, this wasn't for her. Okay, fair enough. The worst part of this experience was during a relatively silent part of the film, as
spoilers.
Someone decided to say "boom" before a certain thing happened.
Such annoying behaviour.
I've been looking for a word to describe this gent. So far, the front runner is dickhead. Hope you both enjoyed the film. Really looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Sending my best as always, and keep up the great work.
Josh also writes in saying, Alien Romulus, exclamation mark. Dear James and George, Josh here, fairly new listener and big fan of the Patreon content. Well, thank you. Alien Romulus was easily my most anticipated film for the rest of 2024, so it would have been all too easy for the film to be a big disappointment. But what I saw gave me more than I could ever have asked for. I felt that Fede Alvarez did a killer job of returning to the franchise's roots, whilst also putting a spin on it as the plot developed. The use of lighting was immaculate and the visual effects were breathtaking. Callie Spaney is an absolute powerhouse and is quickly becoming one of my favourite working actresses. David Johnson is also really strong too.
Terrific.
Overall, I was more than impressed as Romulus quickly became one of my favourite films of the year so far. I'm loving all of the content and look forward to hearing your takes on the film. Josh.
Thank you so much. And look, we will be releasing a spoiler discussion on this film later this week because there are lots of things to talk about in spoiler detail. So do look out for that and listen in. But
I knew, so like for the last moments, which are gross and just, sticky and horrible and gooey, Horror Amy loves anything sadistic, gory, bloody, gooey. And I knew that like she was having fun in the last 20 minutes. Because I was watching it just like this, squinting, like, oh my God. And I look at her and she's like this. Just IMAX horrors facing her. And I knew she was having a good time. But
fantastic.
Yeah, Alien Romulus, please send in your thoughts if you have any more. hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com or support us on the VIP tier on Patreon. You have exclusive access to have your email read out on the show. Moving on.
Let's do it.
George, should we go through some of the emails that we get sent into the show every single week? As always, guys, if you wanted to send in your thoughts, your questions, your concerns, your reviews, as always, send them in to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com. Or if you support us on the VIP tier on Patreon, you can have priority access to have your email read out on the show, just like Finn did. Producer Finn says, hi guys, just catching up on all the episodes I've missed. I've been very busy at work and other stuff. Shame I missed the pub quiz. We'll definitely be at the next one and hopefully meet you guys as well. Love the new episodes, shared a lot of the same views about The Bear and House of the Dragon, especially when saying there's not that much happening in the latest season of The Bear and how they had so much potential for character development, but the character has not changed and is still the same. Guys, George reviewed The Bear in 2 weeks ago, and we also reviewed House of the Dragon Season 2.
Yes.
So check that out if you haven't already. Quick question. What are your guys' favourite bad films or TV shows that you love to watch? Like example, mine's Riverdale. It's awful and cringe, but it's a guilty pleasure. Haha. Just wondered if you had any of the same. Many thanks.
Very timely that you asked this question because my anecdotal answer to this is like, well, I didn't think I would, but I ended up getting sucked into 3 seasons of Emily in Paris last year in the course of the first 3 days of the year, where I just sat during it was rainy and horrible and dark outside. I sat under a blanket, ate chocolates, and just watched all 3 seasons. And even though there are many things wrong with the show, it definitely got sucked into its own reality and its own spell. And I was like, what is going to happen with Camille and what's going to happen with Gabrielle? But I would have said that. However, the 4th season has just come out, and I've watched all 5 episodes of the first batch this weekend. And, well, first of all, I'd forgotten basically everything about that show because I'd watched it in such quick succession such a long time ago. And the spell has definitely been broken. And I was watching it and I was like, this is terrible.
Really?
Not terribly. I used to say Emily in Paris is like a macaroon of a show, okay?
Sure.
It's a pastry, it's filled with sweet. Not pastel coloured, unnecessary, but kind of enjoyable in a way.
Macaroons.
You wouldn't like Emily in Paris then. But this time I was like, oh no, this is a flat croissant. Flat croissant, I should say. Not that enjoyable. I think even my girlfriend and her mum, who are more away, enjoy it more, were like, yeah, it's kind of lost itself now. So my once guilty pleasure is now not a pleasure anymore.
Totally. I've got so many that are technically bad, but if they were on, like I'd always watch Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3. I just wouldn't turn it off. Even though there are problems with it, I just have a real sort of warm affection for it. There were loads of things that I'll go, yeah, that's rubbish, but I'll watch it. Oh, yeah. Matrix 2 and 3. Oh, yeah. More so 2. 3 is, I think, a bit of a boring watch. Yeah. But 2, I'd go, yeah, it's not great. Yeah. But I'd watch it.
Do you know what? I haven't watched it many years, but I used to have a lot of time for Terminator 3, actually.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that twice.
Yeah, I think it's very silly, but, you know, do you remember the bit with the car where she punches through and drives the car?
Yeah.
Gory. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
loads.
This next email is from Andrew, who writes in and says, entering my film era and childhood memories. Kia ora. Hello from New Zealand, James and George.
Hello.
Again, guys, please always tell us where you're writing. If you can.
Oh, please.
Tell us where you're writing in from. We'd love to get an idea of, how far and wide we've we've reached.
Yeah.
And New Zealand is the definition of the other side of the world.
Yeah.
I felt almost obligated to get in touch and say thank you for all the incredible work you've put out to make this podcast such a brilliant listen every week.
Thank you, very
Andrew,
kind.
thank you. Since discovering the pod at the start of the year, the two of you have truly inspired the awakening of my film era. Whereas over the past 10 years, I've been almost exclusively consuming TV series at home, I've now felt compelled to watch many of the films mentioned in your conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed watching No Country for Old Men and There Will Be Blood in back-to-back evenings after learning that their shared production timelines, locations, and Oscar nods.
What a double bill.
What a great one.
That's as good as double bills get, really.
Fantastic. Well done, Andrew. After your regular plays for Ripley, I thought I'd let a series, the TV series, not to be confused with Alien. We've been talking about Alien so much, but I thought I'd let a series break up my film consumption, and boy, oh boy, I was captivated. The slow build of tension in almost every episode gripped my attention in a way I haven't felt in some time. I literally dreamed in black and white at night after I finished the series. Wonderful, wonderful.
Can I just say, when people have asked me, because I do a film podcast, what's the best thing you've seen this year? I stop them and I go, Ripley is the best thing I've seen this year.
You still think above any film?
I don't know, probably. I've gushed more about Ripley this year than I'd say. That's usually the first thing that comes to my mind. I go Ripley.
Also because it needs the love.
And it needs the love, and it's longer and more consistently excellent. It's fantastic.
I'd love to share one of my earliest film-going memories. When I was 9 or 10 years old, my dad took me to an evening screening of The Empire Strikes Back. It must have been a screening to celebrate 20 years since one of the film's releases, as they were playing all three of the original trilogy back to back. We were only attending Empire, so we stood outside the theatre doors whilst A New Hope was concluding. I was giddy with anticipation as I patiently waited, listening to the muffled sounds of the ending of the previous film, when all of a sudden, boom! The Death Star explodes, and I swear the entire theatre shook with the reverb. I just remember looking up at my dad with what must have been the biggest grin on my face, filled with pure excitement. Ironically, one of my greatest film experiences happened in the foyer. I'd love to know if you have any similar memories of attending a film as a child that you might like to share. Thanks again for the great conversations every week, Andrew. P.S. Imagine my shock as an adult when I realised that the hero of my childhood, Mufasa from The Lion King, was voiced by the same person as the villain of my childhood. Mind blown. What a great experience for a
That's
start.
great.
Lovely
I'd also
memory.
love to watch probably Empire in cinema. I think it would be really good.
Yeah.
Also, Empire, back to Alien Chat, another example of a great sequel passed on to a different director, like Irvin Kershner. Obviously, very much still George Lucas film, but handed over, given a different treatment. It's darker. It's not exactly like as poppy as New Hope.
And I loved the actual quality. I think I talked about this before. The depths of the whites and the blacks, the color grade of it. It's just beautiful. I wish I had that. It's so stunning. It didn't quite carry over to Return of the Jedi, but the look of it is great. But a childhood memory. Do you have any childhood mememories of going to the cinema that you particularly...
I talked about Toy Story 2 recently, which is one of my earliest. Just what an action-packed, fun thrill ride that is when they're chasing after the plane. It doesn't get better than that.
I remember I went on this birthday party to see Bruce Almighty. So it would have been about 9.
Yeah.
And I remember there was loads of us. There was friends of us in the row in front, friends of mine in this row, friends of mine behind me, and parents as well. And I remember watching that scene where he's on the boat, and just the whole rant, and the bedrock of my life is Rudy, and then Rudy, and he goes, back to you, fuckers. And I remember we just howled with laughter, the way of it, being surrounded by people just laughing. I remember hearing my mum laugh behind me. It was so wonderful. And also
the Steve Carell
that bit too
is hilarious.
But the experience as well was that you're a 9-year-old hearing the F word as well, because the 12A had enabled us to do that. It was just a great moment.
I remember walking out of Interstellar, my mind was so blown. Because I think the different times you watch Interstellar, it's very, very different process, like with a lot of Nolan films. But the first time you watch it, you're very much processing the raw emotion of the ending. You're not necessarily thinking about how much sense it makes. I think your second time watching it, you'll go, but did this make sense? I think you'll come away with it with a more critical eye. But I think if you watch it a third time, you'll be like, hang on, it has a little bit of everything. But I just remember thinking that score was incredible. The ambition of its story and going through, and the other side of the bookshelf just blew my mind. I just thought,
do you know
phenomenal.
What? That actually reminded me, that was the first time I was aware that, because obviously I was very much into film. And kind of my friends knew me as the friend that was most into film. But I knew that film had connected with people because it was the first time that loads of people messaged me
to go and see
to be
it.
like, not to go see
Oh,
it. To
to
be like,
ask.
they'd see, no. Why don't I finish the anecdote? They messaged me to be like, oh, I've just seen it. I have to talk to you about it because I've just seen it because you're the film friend. And I was like, oh, wow, it's clearly really popular for people. Thank you, Andrew.
This next one is from Joe, who writes in, "Hi, George and James. Hope you're well. Joe here, long-time listener and recent Patreon subscriber. I'm emailing in response to James's recent review of the new M. Night Shyamalan flick, Trap. Reviewed that last week. Although I think I like the movie more than James seemed to, I do have one gripe with it, and that it is lazy and cheap. Its lazy and cheap representation of obsessive-compulsive disorder, or OCD. Speaking from experience here, I can assure you that OCD is a lot more than just staying organised or driving a black car so it hides the dirt, as it is half-heartedly characterised in this movie. I find it frustrating the way current media seems to disregard the disorder, often painting it as a quirky personality trait rather than the horrible disorder that it has taken and continues to take so much from many people. It didn't massively affect my enjoyment of the movie, which on the whole I thought was pretty fun and campy thriller, but I still found it frustrating nonetheless. Any thoughts? I just feel like this stuff deserves to be taken a little more seriously by filmmakers. Anyway, sorry this isn't a cheerier email for you to read out. Keep up the good work, and hopefully I'll have something more positive to say the next time I write in. Joe, yeah, I remember the OCD being included, and it's like, it wasn't even worth mentioning because it's such a thing that's brushed aside and not really returned to. Like, there are moments where he has visual tics with his hands or certain things, but it never, for me, added that much colour to that character's arc, where it almost... For me, someone who's not that related to the issue, didn't really feel like to comment it, but I can imagine totally, Joe, that would be a little bit. Why even include it then if it's going to be just something there?
Trivialize it as the thing to give colours.
It's also just more interesting if I don't think that character needed to have an obsessive compulsive disorder to therefore be a serial killer, which is kind of what it's like. Well, he's probably evil if he has OCD, right?
Can I say what's really
you didn't
funny?
need to do that to show it.
You said to me when you obviously did the review, and I think this is blatantly obvious in the trailer, right? That you said, and we learned 10 minutes in to the movie of Trap that Josh Hartnett is the serial killer, right? Not a spoiler. I think that's the setup for the movie. But when I spoke to some other people at Alien Romulus, just in the audience, they were like, "Oh, we went to Trap," and this guy was like, "I haven't seen it." So like, is the twist like? Can I just guess the twist? Is it he's the serial killer? And I was like, "That's the movie.
That's the movie."
What do you think? What do you think the whole movie is? He's just stuck at a concert going, "Well, I wonder who this serial killer is."
Yeah, I want to say it's within 15-20 minutes of the film that's revealed.
Rubbish.
And also, like, that's not the point of the film.
Thank you for your email. This next email is from Oliver, friend of the show, Oliver. Hello, guys. How are you both?
Good.
Good, thank you, Oliver. It was really lovely seeing you at the pub quiz. My sister and I thoroughly enjoyed ourselves and wrote down a list of films we need to watch and rewatch, including Terminator 2, Interstellar, Interview with a Vampire, and poor form on my part, Ratatouille. Never seen it. Do you know what,
Oliver?
I had some friends as well who did the same thing. Especially friends who weren't film fans that were coming to support us. Were just like, "Oh yeah, I've written down all these films I've never heard of." And I was like, "Oh really? What have you gone?" They were like, "Well, Ace Ventura."
We should post like the quiz watch list. It's like every film referenced in the quiz. That could be quite a good thing to do.
I've got two questions, one for James and one for you both. Sorry, George, I'll find one just for you next time. Thank you, Oliver. I'll hold you to it. James, you had a couple of specific Harry Potter questions in the quiz, and you've talked about it on the podcast. So as a fellow Harry Potter fan, I'm curious about your relationship with the series. Do you read or listen to the books a lot, more so than the films? Also, I'm feeling quite ambivalent about the series. Are you?
Yeah, that Fantastic Beasts, massive disappointment. I did a lot of coverage of Secrets of Dumbledore at the time. A lot of people came out and were like, "Oh yeah, this guy says the truth." Mishandling. There's so many thoughts. I've talked many times about I don't think the show that they're going to do should happen in this way. I'd rather they expanded Harry Potter. And Fantastic Beasts has just clearly dropped the ball. But I'm a massive Harry Potter fan. I was a great age when Harry Potter 1 came out in cinema. Read like the first 4 books that I think were out at the time, became obsessed. I listen to the audiobooks now on repeat. I haven't done it for a few years, but I'm now re-listening to 3. I probably watch some films once a year, but I haven't sort of like done them through.
Got it.
I know the films very well. Know the source material very well.
I do not, but maybe one day I will.
Love it. These are the Stephen Fry audiobooks, which are like some of the best. If you're ever to do it, George,
I will do.
A treat, the Stephen Fry audiobooks.
Now one for you both. I'm going to Washington, D.C. next month for a week with my family, and as big West Wing fans, we plan to take in as many historical landmarks as possible. What films would you recommend I watch to get into the mood before I go? Keep up the good work and look forward to the next quiz. Longtime siren, Oliver. So movies, but straight away, Spider-Man: Homecoming. They go on the school trip to the Washington Memorial.
National Treasure.
obviously. I mean, I've not even seen it, but that goes without saying. Surely, like, Night at the Museum is no, that's not. That's New York, isn't it? Sorry, my mistake. I don't have any, other than off the top of my head, any more DC recommendations, but I've been to DC. You've been to DC?
Yeah.
You've been to DC? Oh, yeah.
Once, yeah.
I've been to DC, and I will say that the quality of the museums, fantastic.
Oh, yeah,
that's
really
what
good.
you'll be spending your time
Museums
doing.
are fantastic
The museums are excellent.
It's a great Holocaust museum in Washington, D.C.
Holocaust Museum.
Good. Sirens on our
Sirens.
end. Sirens on our end.
There's a museum of Native American culture.
Yeah.
There's great art museums, just great historic. Really enjoy that. Also, DC in early September, if that's when you're going, will still be very hot. It's warm. It's more south than I think we realised, DC.
Yeah.
I had a great time. Loved it there.
Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah.
Forrest Gump a bit.
Yeah, the Forrest Gump bit, the MLK speech.
Yeah.
The ending of the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes.
You seen Milk?
No, I haven't.
Bits
actually.
of that set in Washington,
yeah,
aren't
I'm
they?
sure.
It's very good.
Let me think. What about the White Independence Day?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
most of that's
That's
most of that's New York, but there is very one obviously the thing with
there's
the White
Washington
House.
Bits. Yeah.
DC doesn't get a lot of because there's no skyscraper because DC has
Presidents.
a law about how high you can build, right? Which
Yep.
people think trivia here. People think was because they don't want it to compete with the height of the Washington Memorial, but it's not. It's actually because there was a fire in the 1800s, and tall buildings were it spread the fire more quickly, so they spread it out. So really cinematically, not a lot gets filmed there.
Yeah.
Oh, Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Oh, yeah.
He's running along the mall, isn't he? At the
Thing,
beginning,
all of that. Meets
That-
Anthony Mackie for a jog by the
on your left,
river.
when he first says on your left, and he has the list of things. Did you know that in Captain America: Winter Soldier,
on your left thing, yeah.
No,
No.
James. Let me say.
Oh, the paper with the thing.
Yeah, he has the paper and he has the list of things he wants to catch up on, right? Because he's been defrosted or whatever, and it was different in different territories.
Yes, I did
so
know.
in
That's
England,
great.
it was different to the
I
US.
don't know how I feel about that. Like changing your cut to just
for a joke.
appeal to the audience of whatever it's in.
Yeah.
It's like it should be true to what Falcon
What's
would
the objective
recommend.
text?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't just like cater to me. Charlie writes in, friend of the show, says, "Hey James and George, love the pod. I wanted to get your take on this crazy It Ends With Us drama. It's clearly working as it's beaten Deadpool in the box office for 4 days straight." I would say granted after Deadpool's had its opening, seems like they wanted to create a Barbenheimer moment that never happened. What's been really interesting is how the internet has turned on Blake for promoting the film in a fluffy way, with flowers and tines with Ryan, and then Justin Baldoni really highlighting the domestic abuse aspects of the film. Now Justin has hired Johnny Depp's PR team. What do you think of it all?
As a sort of crisis, it's not just like he phoned up Johnny and
No,
said,
like
it's a crisis comms people. He had to sort that out.
What do you think of it all? Has marketing take over the film? What do you think of the director versus producer dynamics? Love, Film Fan 22. Oh, maybe you didn't want to say your name, but
You've done it now.
Yeah. I know her,
We
it's
talked
fine.
all about this in Double Take this week. You can listen to it there if you're subscribed to the Patreon.
We broke down all the drama, the who said
got
what,
into it.
what's
It's-
going on, over marketing of films. We got
Yes,
into
it's
that.
one of that,
Has certain films like
But
Deadpool.
that's the way to check it out. And our last email today is from Albin, who writes in, Albin, by the way, great name, love your name, your full name, fantastic, who writes in and says, "Hello from Sweden. Hi guys, Albin here from Gothenburg. I'm so damn late to the party and started listening to the pod just a few months ago, and so to rectify the mistake of not jumping on the bandwagon sooner, I thought I should format the shit out of this email to at least
Immaculately
get
formatted. It looks like a
It's-
pamphlet.
It's incredible.
like a marketing email from a corporation.
I love it. It's exceptional.
And you see the Dear James and George at the top in like its
Yes.
own header?
It's remarkable.
It's hard to explain. It's like a newsletter
Yes.
for a film release with like a sort of
And he's-
footer appendices, PS with its own separate section.
and he's very cleverly written Dear Games and George. He's switched the G and the J around
very
on our
good.
names.
Things
So
are bold with the year in
the year the film's released.
Film's
there.
released. You've got
Italicized.
just
Italicized for emphasis and also for differentiation.
and for humour. Sent from my compact
and
Presario
then
Pentium 4 CQ1 2000 desktop.
And you've also formatted your question in not only a paragraph break, but also, I love it. I love
The
it.
best formatted email ever.
I think it could be, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Albin goes on to say, a few episodes ago, for me that is, you touched on the best versus favourite film debate. I will be buried cradling the extended Lord of the Rings trilogy, but a more original favourite for me would be Danny Boyle's Sunshine. It is so underrated, with an amazing cast, beautiful score, and visuals that seriously rival most modern films. Had it come out a couple of years later, I'm sure it would have been way more successful. It deserves way more praise, way more time in the spotlight, or Sunshine. But I digress. Have you seen Sunshine?
No.
Great, yeah, I agree. A really
it.
underrated movie. The cast now is really funny because they're so much bigger. You've got Chris Evans, Cillian Murphy, Michelle Yeoh, Rose Byrne, Benedict Wong, Mark Strong. Endless. You think, crack, fucking all these people in this film. But I digress. While it's not perfect, it's the only film I've watched twice in a row. Wow. Twice? You've ever done that? Back to back? You're just so good you just watched it straight away?
Return of the Jedi when I first saw it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I finished watching it, which leads me to my question. What are some of your favourite films that never managed to cut through some of the noise when it first released, but if released at a different time, it could have been a great success? And I will say on Sunshine, by the way, the famous thing was that it came out in the summer during a massive heat wave, and the irony was that Sunshine killed Sunshine. Everyone was outside enjoying themselves, and no one went to the cinema. Thanks for a great pod. Keep the sirens spinning. Sirens spinning. Don't bring back the food. Yes, we know that. Your friend in time, Albin. P.S. My controversial movie/TV series opinion, TM, is that the Punisher series is the best outing from Marvel since Iron Man 2008. Never seen it.
And it's John Bernthal who's coming back for
Daredevil.
More Daredevil.
But that's a bold. That is a hot take.
Yeah, it's a hot take.
So films that it's basically underrated movies, isn't it? Films that didn't quite get the love they deserved.
Like some of my favourite films that I don't hear lots of other film people, or like some of them I know I've seen, like Stephen McQueen's Shame, I love and really just stuck with me, but don't hear many people talking about it that much. Love Nocturnal Animals. People don't talk about that much.
Oh, I didn't tell you my Nocturnal Animals story from a friend of mine.
No.
So I'm going to read out the message, actually. This is from Dan, friend of the show, Dan. Go do this. Because if you've seen Nocturnal Animals...
Dan came to the quiz.
Dan came to the quiz, who had a wedding this year. Okay, so Dan wrote in and said, me and Ellie, his new wife, are watching Nocturnal Animals. Neither of us have seen it before.
Yeah.
And by the way, I get this message at like midnight. And I'm pretty sure you've seen it, as I've heard you spoken about on the podcast.
Yeah.
Well, neither of us were expecting a jump scare, and we both jumped up so much that we both spilled our teas. And do you remember, there is a jump scare in? Do you not remember it?
Where is it?
Oh, it's in... I literally have a message from you from when you watched it years ago where you were like, I did not expect a jump scare. There's a moment, Nocturnal Animals, which isn't a horror film, which is it's in like a baby cam footage moment, and it kind of, a face jumps in. And Dan has sent me a picture of the tea that they've spilt on their sofa, which
it's really good. Yeah.
It makes it look like they've wet themselves. So I love this image of them watching this movie and both going,
yeah.
Anyway, thank you, Dan, for that.
Did you like it?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I need to follow up, actually, but I'm seeing him soon.
I'm due a rewatch of that. I really like that film.
So thank you, Dan, for that. And thank you, Albin, for that wonderful email. Very well formatted. In terms of me, underrated movies that never quite cut through. I mentioned The Mauritanian on Double Take this week, which was... quite a good movie that came out 2021, kind of post-COVID, got lost, but a great cast. Jodie Foster, Shailene Woodley, Tahar Rahim, Benedict Cumberbatch, and more. Yeah, I thought All of Us Strangers at the beginning of this year actually never quite got the kind of the... It got love, but like Andrew Scott was never awarded the proper time. It kind of came out a bit late. It came out late in December in the States.
Email-wise,
so
we got lots of buzz about it.
But anyway, thank you very much, Albin, and thank you to everyone who wrote in an email this week. We very much enjoyed that. And I'm looking forward to the games this week because I'm playing them, I'm not creating them. I'm in the hot seat.
Do you not enjoy creating them?
I do enjoy creating them, but it's more like, it's like a present. I look forward to the surprise.
Nice.
I look forward to what James has got for me this week. So let's get on with that.
Let's go on with the game. George, as always, Pulp Kitchen ends
with a game.
Today's game is Star Wars themed.
Oh, okay.
After, on the Patreon, if you guys go and listen to that, we did a special feature on how to save Star Wars. After the review of The Acolyte, which I didn't finish reviewing, I thought instead of reviewing that, I'm going to go and do a proper feature on constructive ways that the Star Wars franchise can move forward. And doing that, George, I just got a bit inspired.
Do it.
It's a Star Wars sound game. Sounds in Star Wars, George, are just famous. I mean, like, I realize you could play this with just Star Wars
to the end of time.
So obviously you know that it's going to be a Star Wars film. But the question is, do you know which Star Wars it's from?
Okay.
Obviously, there's going to be more niche because they're going to be more niche sounds because you're going to know it's Star Wars, but it's going to be more tricky, more vague. Yes.
Are these sounds from only the episodic films or the spin-off films? How many sounds have we got
You've got
here?
spin-offs in there.
So I've got spin-offs. I'm just mentally, I need to know what to
You've got spin-offs.
add to the criteria.
Don't assume there won't be more than one sound.
So my
from
point
each
is we're
film.
including the Rogue Ones, the solos, and all that
Maybe.
stuff. Wait, are we?
Yeah.
Okay, we are. And how? You're saying there's sounds in there from the same film?
Maybe.
But
Don't make any assumptions.
But are there?
Yeah.
Because so the rules are different this week. Okay.
Yeah, it's not like I've done one for each film.
Okay.
All right. It's just sounds that I liked. These are starting a bit easier. Nice, easy one to start with. You should get it. And then I think they get a little bit more vague.
How many?
8.
Okay.
Ready? You have to guess the Star Wars movie from just this sound. Ready?
Mm-hmm. Force Awakens.
Iconic lightsaber sound.
The crackle. The crackle of Kylo Ren's...
The snap, crackle, and pop.
The saber with the hilt.
His bootleg saber.
Yeah.
Angry,
I got this
rip-roaring.
in a bootleg sale.
One of the first sounds we heard of Force Awakens.
Because in the trailer, isn't it?
The dark side. And the light.
Love it.
Moving on to sound number 2. Can you guess what Star Wars film this sound is from?
Phantom Menace.
Yes. Do you know the scene?
Pod racing?
No.
Is it when Anakin's in the Naboo fighter?
No. You're in the right part of the film.
So the end. Oh, the Gungan battle.
Yes,
That's
a very
right.
forgotten battle from Star Wars, but there's this great moment when the droid tanks roll over the beautiful hill and they get to the Gungan shield. It's like...
Love that was one of my favourite scenes in Phantom Menace when I used to watch it.
Jar Jar swinging around.
Not that, but just the droids and the Gungans and the big tanks. And but then I went and rewatched it recently, and it looks like it was rendered on the Microsoft XP hill.
It's a really clean and vanilla setting, and it's not like it's a beautiful place and the violence contrasts. It just is strangely clean.
It's like they said we need this to be in a battlefield, and they went, a field counts as a battlefield.
Meadow?
I dare say, yes.
Are you ready for your next clip? You have to guess the Star Wars film from this sound.
Rogue One.
Yes, iconic.
The great
Immediately
Vader
Vader.
edition at the end.
The lighting is only supplied by his lightsaber.
Wonderful.
Fantastic.
I love Rogue One, and I love that excitement you get at the end when you realise, we're going right up to New Hope.
This will happen
We're doing not just like before, but like 5 minutes before.
You know what I love about that? The fear in their eyes.
Oh, God, yeah.
Take it! And then they realise, open fire! But little to no avail. George, are you ready for your next sound?
Yes. Revenge of the Sith.
No. What did you think it was?
I thought it was the volcanic lava of Mustafar.
Oh, no. It's interesting you'd say that.
Is
It's
this
a different
the industrial
sound.
processing in Attack of the Clones?
No.
Oh, one more time then. Go on, I think I know it.
Yeah. Yes.
Empire Strikes Back. It's the looking through the binoculars at the AT-AT.
First reveal of the
AT-ATs
AT-ATs.
crunching on the snow
Yes.
in Hoth. You can hear the fuzz of the crackling.
Yes. Very well done. You got there. That is from Empire Strikes Back. Great scene.
Thank you.
Great battle.
Oh, got a wonderful moment.
Ready for your next sound?
Yes.
Look, over there! Stop it!
A New Hope.
No.
It's got that's the
You'll
old.
get it the next time.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
It's Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
It's the speeders in
Yes.
the forest in
But-
Endor.
And it's when the Ewok steals one.
Ah,
and then
that's
her
it.
go. It's like, wow!
Yeah,
He's holding onto the
I
back.
knew it was original trilogy because the specific of the voice of the stormtrooper. Hey, over there!
Ready for your next sound. You have to guess the Star Wars film from this sound. So unmistakable's voice of
Chewbacca.
Yeah.
A lot of screeching in that. I'd like that one more time, please.
yeah, of course.
What sounds like the Millennium Falcon performing a handbrake turn. Last Jedi?
No.
Rise of Skywalker?
No.
Empire Strikes Back when they're in the
Yes.
is it when they go through the big worm? They're in the
No. Why would Chewie be a bit sad?
Oh, when he's cuffed and Han Solo's been.
When he gets frozen in carbonite.
That's
He's
the
been
moment.
frozen, and they're lifting out his body, revealing and Chewie and Leia are all just very sad. He goes, no. And then they're about to do that thing where they go, funk.
Have you seen the clips of Peter Mayhew just saying the dialogue responses to Harrison Ford? So when Chewie's up on the Millennium Falcon, and Harrison Ford comes out and says, "What are you doing up here? You said that." And obviously in the film, he's going, and this one he's just like, "You said to go do that over there." I said that, Chewie, buddy, but you just got to do this. Yeah, well, you said go do that later. And he's giving actual English responses.
Oh,
which
that's
is nice.
good. I like that. Are you ready for your next sound?
Yes.
You have to guess what Star Wars film this sound belongs to.
Attack of the Clones.
No.
Damn it. Revenge of the Sith. General
No.
Grievous. So what I thought I could hear was the buzzing of the winged creatures in Geonosis, or whatever it is. Geonosis.
No. You're off there.
Is it Force Awakens with the
No.
trooper with the finish him or whatever he says?
No.
Traitor! That bit.
Do you want me to tell you?
Hang on, just a second. I can't, someone in a mechanized suit of some kind. Then
Nope.
it's not. No, go on then. Go
Right,
on.
that is from The Last Jedi. That is the moment when Snoke thinks he's manipulating Kylo Ren. He's like, I can feel your mind turning. And he's turning the lightsaber to Snoke. Blasts through Snoke. That's the fuzzling. It killed Snoke. And then forces it. And the catch you hear is Rey catching the lightsaber. And then it's about to be Kylo Ren offering her hand. Cue. Very sort of conflicting emotions, but cool throne room scene.
Yeah.
It's like the catch the Star Wars.
Okay.
Ready for your next sound?
Yeah. I love it. One of the best. I love the whole film. The entire first act of that film is amazing. That is Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Tatooine above the Sarlacc pit.
Yep.
Jabba.
This is your last chance. Join us or die. And then he just the nod. All of those musical cues are the nods. So he nods at Lando, nods at Leia, nods at R2, nods at Han, who can't really see. R2's ready to deploy Luke's new green lightsaber.
And they fly out, and it's the cocktail bar's like dunk, 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 on the two
The
ships.
roaming party. So good. Luke jumps off, the audience gasps, he
Grabs
springs
the
back
thing.
up. What a green lightsaber!
Ow!
Ah! A little higher, a little higher.
I thought you
Great
said you were
moment.
blind. I can see a lot better now. Oh, good.
You ready for your last Star Wars sound?
The Last Sound, episode 10.
Yeah.
Rise of Skywalker?
No. What could you hear? Some lightsabers. Epic
Lightsabers.
music. John Williams, thank you.
Yeah, really narrows it down. It sounds Palpatine-y.
Oh, interesting.
It does sound a bit. But if it's not, okay, well, Darth Maul doesn't say anything. Count Dooku? Is it Attack of the Clones?
Yeah, it's Attack of the Clones. That's Yoda's voice. So that is the moment where they've tried to force each other out. And he's like, must be decided by our lightsaber skills. And the operatic music of, wait, what? Yoda can... And he opens his cloak. He could reach for his lightsaber, but he forces it from his belt to his hand, ignites it, and then that's just him jumping.
I thought it could be at the end of episode 7 where Finn picks up the lightsaber to try and fight Kylo Ren. Does that happen? That happens, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course it does.
Does
that happen? It's in the trailer.
Yes, but I haven't seen the trailer or the film for many years.
Yeah.
Does that age well, the CGI of Yoda?
It wasn't the worst. The worst part of the CG of the prequels is the extended environments or the fake environments in the first place. Like when Windu, Yoda, and Obi-Wan are walking in the Jedi Temple. It looks really bad. It looks like the Clone Wars.
I'm sorry, but I still think the fight between Palpatine and Mace Windu and the other Jedi should
one
have
of the
been
worst.
so good.
So much
But it was
cooler.
rubbish.
In a horrible, like, tight corridor, but not in a
The
cool
camera
way.
movements are terrible. You can't see what he just seems to kill two of them like instantly. He does
So
a weird sort
boring.
of spiral through the air. Rubbish.
But yeah, did I do where's my, no, I must not have downloaded it. Anyway, I was going to do the seismic charge from Attack of the Clones. You know that when he's chasing after the slave one?
You've got to understand this. I've only seen Attack of the Clones once.
Oh, God,
When
yeah.
at the cinema.
Yeah, fine.
I've really the prequel
I've
film.
actually not rewatched it.
I've never rewatched the prequels
Wow.
ever. I've seen the Phantom Menace. I probably watched a couple of times in childhood. I saw it at the cinema, watched it at home.
You're not
Attack of the
counting it as
Clones
a rewatch.
only at the cinema. Revenge of the Sith only at the cinema because I knew coming out of Revenge of the Sith, I was disappointed. I thought it was rubbish.
Yeah.
I knew it was a bad film. I knew the dialogue was hammy. I knew the no at the end was terrible. And even in 2005, I thought, nah, sorry.
You just never went back.
Never went back.
Yeah.
And I'm curious in a sort of historical point of view to go and watch them. And I know my opinion will probably be the same because you've watched them again. and you've,
it's not similar. You notice, you take different things from them. You notice different things. You appreciate different things. There's some stuff that gets better weirdly. It's very true to Star Wars. They are like thematically, but not
I have
in their
more knowledge
execution.
of the merchandise that I bought around those
sure.
films
Yeah.
than the actual films themselves.
Did you have the episode 1 like prop book? Did you ever see that? It was like the
published
objects.
by D&K? Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
like an encyclopedia.
Like an encyclopedia, for each episode.
That was a really cool book.
And they'd be like furry coat for keeping warm.
yes, and it was like Captain Panaka's watch. Or
Yeah.
something. Like get really detailed. I had no idea that was a thing, but here we are.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I used to have lots of stuff.
Well, there you go, guys. That was.
I read the novelization of episode 3.
Just like did you buy that in a W.H. Smith?
No,
in
I tell you what happened
2006
is
at an
that so
airport?
2005 for Revenge of the Sith, it came out in May, June, and I remember went on holiday in July, and because I'd been really into it that year, all the presents I got as a 11-year-old were all Star Wars related, or Star Wars Episode 3 related. One of them, I guess my mum had just gone to the Star Wars section.
No, I get that.
And
What is that? It's just the book of.
It's the book of the film.
Wow.
And so I remember, for example, the fight between Mace
Definitely Ghost
Windu and it's not. The fight between Mace Windu and Palpatine, that was told from the perspective of Anakin racing over to Palpatine's office in, motor traffic or whatever, flying cars, gets to the office and all the crumpled bodies are there and Mace Windu's already out the window. And I was like, I quite like that perspective shift.
Yeah.
But I just knew at the time, I was like, this is hammy. I'd seen good films by the time I was 11,
Yeah,
you see.
yeah.
So I could tell what bad dialogue was.
I'd seen a good
Yeah,
motion picture.
I dare say. So, yeah.
Well, there you go, guys. That was a Star Wars edition of the sound game. You could probably play that for weeks and months on end if you really wanted to. But thank you so much for spending your time with us and for listening to this episode. Don't forget, we post new episodes of this show every single Wednesday.
And please continue to support us as you do on Instagram and TikTok, and share and like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. And of course, you can sign up for Patreon, where you'll get access to our exclusive brand new show, Double Take, where we talk about all the hot news and hot gossip happening in the film industry. And we also post deep dives on old films, James's editorial piece on how to fix Star Wars. It's a big thing. It's all happening over there. Come join us. We'd love you to come over there. And you get priority access on emails being read out and access to the Discord. It's a hell of a party.
Thank you to our producers, Aidan and Finn, for your support. We massively appreciate it. We will see you next week.
Ta-ra.
Take care. Oh, don't forget to check out the spoiler cast for Alien Romulus coming out later. That'll
Absolutely,
be great.
yes. Bye.
Bye.